I'm going to talk about these tools on the left bar over here and give you an overview of what each of these tools do. The first tool is the selection tool, which is pretty straightforward. You click on object to select it in your workspace. You'll notice some of these tools have a little marker down here in the right hand corner. That indicates that you could click and hold on a tool to bring up a menu, and then you can select variations of that tool. For example, the Select Circle tool allows me to select all the objects within a circle, and I can change the size of that circle. I'll go back to the Select Box tool for now. This is called the 3D Cursor tool. It's a very powerful tool. I'm going to go over what the tool does in a separate video. Moving down, we have the Move tool, which allows me to move a selected object. When I select a Move tool and I have an object selected, you'll see some handles that appear. There's a white circle. If I click inside the white circle, that gives me a free move functionality. If I wanted to move an object along a specific axis, the X, Y, or Z axis, I would click on the red, blue, or green handles, and that would lock the movement of the object along that specific axis. For the rotation tool, we have a couple of options. If I click on the outer white circle, it's going to rotate the cube from my perspective. So I'm looking down on the cube, and the cube is just rotating around. If I mouse inside the white circle, I see a little highlighted white area. If I click on that, it gives me a free rotate along two axes, and this depends on my perspective again. You'll see currently I'm rotating along the X and Y axes as indicated by the red and green arrows of my cursor. I can also lock rotation to the X, Y, or Z axis by clicking on the red, green, or blue handles. So if I wanted to rotate the cube around the Z axis, for instance, I could click on the blue handle. The next tool is the Scale tool. If I click in the white circle, it will give me a uniform scale in all directions. If I click on one of the handles, it will only scale in that direction along that axis. So it'll allow me to stretch the object, say, along the y-axis. The next tool is called the Transform tool. Now this tool kind of combines the other three tools above it. So you'll see handles for rotating, scaling, and moving. It's up to you whether you want to use the individual tools or you want to use the Transform tool. If you have a lot of transformations you want to do, you want to rotate and move the object, the Transform tool might be the tool for you. But if you just want to move the object without rotating it or scaling it, then you could just use the Move tool. I want to talk a little bit about the shortcuts. So whenever you mouse over any of the tools, you'll see a shortcut for that tool. For move, it's G. For rotate, it's R. And for scale, it's S. Your modeling is going to go a lot faster if you learn to use the shortcuts. So if I press the G key, that turns my cursor into the move icon, and then I can free move the cube or selected object around the workspace. Now I can also combine shortcuts here. So if I press G and then X, it's going to lock the cube's movement along the x-axis. I can do that with GY and GZ as well. I can do that with scale. So if I press S for scale, that gives me a uniform scale, but then if I press Y, that locks the scaling along the y-axis, so I can stretch or shrink the object along that axis only. And then the same with rotation. If I press R, that gives me the perspective rotation, but if I press X, that locks rotation along the x-axis. Below that is the Annotation tool. This allows you to make notes on your workspace. It can be helpful to mark where certain events might occur or certain animations might happen. The annotations do not show up in a rendered image. They're purely for your planning purposes. So I can draw on the workspace. The Measurement tool allows you to measure the distance between two objects on the workspace. And finally, the Create Primitive tool. So if I click and hold on this tool, you'll see I'm able to create 5 different types of primitives: cube, cone, cylinder, UV sphere, and ICO sphere. If I select Add Cube, you'll see this little spotlight. The spotlight indicates where I'm going to create a new cube. So if I'm just mousing around the workspace, you'll see the spotlight shows up on the quote-unquote floor of the workspace. If I mouse on any of the objects on my workspace, you'll see the spotlight changes. It snaps to whichever face that my cursor is currently over. And this allows me to create objects or add primitives to existing objects on the workspace. For now, I'm just going to create an object on the floor of my workspace. And to do that, you click and hold and drag the mouse button. So I'm clicking and holding the mouse, left mouse button down, and I'm dragging, and that allows me to specify the size of my new primitive. Now when I let go of the mouse, I can drag the mouse up to specify the height of my new primitive. And that works for all of these primitives. If I want a UV sphere, I click and hold to specify the size of the base per se. And then I let go of the mouse and drag up to specify the height. And that's a quick overview of what these tools do. Thanks for watching.